Hi, I'm Kyle, and this is my overview of my Astralis strategic analysis for my business strategy class. Now, one of the first things I need to get into is just an overview of the company. So, who is Astralis? Well, they're a company that is based out of Denmark that has 3 esports teams, and they've been running since 2016 with the one team, but they later expanded into having 2 more teams. These 3 teams are in Counter-Strike, League of Legends, and FIFA. And another thing about Astralis is that they're the only public traded team on the NASDAQ. So if you want to invest in them, you can, but I don't know if I would recommend that. Another thing I need to just briefly get into is, what is esports? A lot of people don't actually know what esports is, and a lot of people think that, video games are stupid, but you can actually get paid to play video games. Granted, it's about the same as like an NBA or an NFL player. Like, you have to be really good at your sport to be able to make it to pro. Same with video games. You can't just, your kid at home who plays Fortnite isn't going to go pro at Fortnite just overnight. Another way to think of them is like, just as a basketball player is an athlete, these, pro sports, esports players are also, like e-athletes. They go through the same sort of rigorous training all day long and do lots of preparation for these games. Now, how does that work as a company? Well, as Nike makes shoes. That's their product. And here you can kind of think of it as like the players as the product. Like, you're selling your players as a team to organization, to like events, and making money off that. But then again, you can also think of them as materials. Just as you need raw materials to form the shoe before you sell it, you need all these individual players, and then you put them together, mold them into a system that works well, practice a bunch, and then you have a team that works, and then they go to tournaments and hopefully win and make you money off of their winnings. Now, one of the ways to help us understand how this industry works is with this Porter's 5 Forces analysis of esports. So the first part of it is the threat of new entrants. With esports, it's a really expensive industry to get into. There's a recent organization that tried and had a roster for 6 months, and it cost them over $2 million, including salary, and they dropped the organization. The organization dropped all the players just like that because they were underperforming. So it's hard to see how any organization would be willing to just get into it. Now, threat of substitutes could be considered high, but it's about low to medium because it's really just, can you beat other teams? It's not like the fans are going to be like, I'm going to go switch to somebody else. Nope. Can't do that because there's not a lot of new organizations popping up left and right. There's just a bunch of existing organizations that are of varying talent. Another part is the bargaining power of us buyers. With Nike shoes, I can boycott their shoes and they lose that money. But with Astralis, if I say, I'm not going to watch your teams anymore, it doesn't matter to them. They don't make money off of me watching them. They make money off the player's performance. And then the other part is the bargaining power of suppliers. So in this case, the players. It's basically just how many players are there around so that they can negotiate their salaries or do better. Well, there's just not a lot of players on the market, so that kind of, makes them harder to get, but also gives them an advantage of being exclusive, and just a lot of teams are trying to sign one particular player, but overall there's not a lot of players available. And then you have industry rivalry. So some teams will build rivalries with each other where they play these fierce matches because they have to just beat each other because they always get beat, or they have these close matches. But overall, most of these teams are just trying to win, and they're not really trying to beat a specific team. Now, what are some of Astralis' key strategies? Well, in 2019, they implemented the strategy of having a single brand. So, as I mentioned earlier, they have 3 teams. In 2019, all 3 teams were under separate names, with only the Counter-Strike team being the Astralis name. Then they finally brought all 3 teams under the single name, and all 3 are now known as Astralis, so that their branding represents all of their teams and is easier to implement. Another thing they've done is the Astralis Talent Program. So this, in Denmark, they've created academy rosters, or young talent rosters, to help train up for these teams. So 16 to 17-year-olds who are, could be good one day, they train them up. Another thing they have is their online marketing and research program, where they partnered with some firms to help do some research into what can make their organization more successful in terms of interactions with fans or just acquiring more sponsorships. Now, what I would recommend for Astralis to do is that they should expand their teams. They only have the 3, and only one of them is actually a really well-performing team. The other 2 aren't doing so hot. So I think that they need to invest in some other esports early on and just build up those teams so that they can do well for them. Another thing they need to do is expand their reach. Unfortunately, they're just purely in Denmark, so a lot of their advertisements and fans are exclusive to Denmark, so there's not a whole lot for people outside of Denmark. And then the final thing they need to do is player development. Like with their talent program, it's good, but it's not quite good enough because just like their reach, it's exclusive to Denmark, and there's a whole untapped potential of players all around the world that they need to reach out to. Yeah, thank you for watching.